welcome to Meet the Moment podcast produced by the Real Estate Business Institute. This podcast is an exploration of what today's industry leaders and agents need to know to be profitable, productive, and have fun. I'm Matthew Rathman, and I'm joined by co-host Kimberly Allard as we chat with thought leaders, brokers, and agents who can help agents meet the moment of change in the real estate industry. Hey, buddy, this is Matthew Rathman, and I am joined by Kimberly Allard, and we are going to be discussing Apple today. We're going to talk about some of the Apple releases and the Apple notes that have come out in the last revision and the last update. And this is a little different than what we've done in the previous episodes where we're interviewing people. We wanted to take a couple minutes to talk about some tech that's going to help you as agents in the Apple sphere. And this is not to offend those who had Androids, but it may be a good encouragement to go get an iPhone or MacBook. Kimberly, how are you?
I'm well. I'm very excited about this episode. Thank you very much.
Yes, we're both nerds, and this is a good chance for us to nerd out, and without the pesky interruptions of intelligent people coming in and talking about leadership and all the things that we've been talking about in our prior episodes.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So, do you still have the do not disturb or I'm driving message on in your Tesla?
Yes, I do. So when I connect, my phone connects to Bluetooth in my car. I do have an automated message to prevent me from reaching for my phone and responding. I don't know. I know you think it's annoying, right?
I don't think it's annoying. I think it's set to only address me, though. I think I'm
It
the only one in your contacts who gets it because
exactly.
I
Just
send a
block
lot of
Matthew.
texts. Yeah, and you're in a Tesla, basically driving an iPad, so it makes sense that you would have a do not disturb feature on there. But I am a little self conscious about the fact that it's probably me, and it reminds me of how many messages I send when I get the autoresponders. So
I think it was a couple of releases ago, and I say a couple, I'm not quite sure how many, maybe 4 years ago, but I just couldn't believe that that wasn't a feature. And then when they introduced it, it was probably the first thing I did. I have, I think like many people, just a strong desire to respond when I'm driving, and it's a habit I've got to break, but the automatic reply feature when I'm connected in my car, it obviously disables any notifications from me through my phone. They do appear on as you, as you said, on my iPad that's on my dashboard, which is about the size of the thing. And I can respond via voice through my car, but it eliminates me picking up the phone and doing anything else, or at least it helps.
yeah, I posted this on Facebook the other day because I was just standing in line at Target, and I do go to the self checkout line, and even if there's nobody in the service checkout line when I have a cashier, I still want to just do it myself because I have this vision that I can do it faster than the person who hates their job who's standing there trying to go as slow as possible to make the hours go by. And two of the people who were standing in line were trying to talk on the phone and trying to check out. And one of them is of course on speakerphone because that's totally not rude whatsoever, and the other person is actually on the phone, and it is obvious that they could not focus on both things at the same time, as most people cannot.
Walk and chew gum at the same time.
Yeah, and I don't know if we talked about this. There was a report that came out that said when you're driving and talking on the phone, you're only giving 30% of your attention to the driving part of it. The rest of the attention is going to your phone, which is why so many accidents happen when people are on their phone. So I've decided when I am king for the day, when I'm elected king for the day, that the very first thing I'm going to pass is that speakerphones will never work outside of your own home, that you cannot be at the airport on speakerphone or in a public place in a speakerphone. And then secondly, that nothing around you, your car won't function and the self-checkout line won't function if you're on the phone. You have to hang up and do one or the other. So
Yeah, I agree. You should have a slight electrical shock if you are using speakerphone in public. It is so rude.
yeah,
I mean, even headphones now, you can get inexpensive headphones. I just don't get it. I do not get it.
yeah.
Unless, well, hold on, I'm going to add a little exception. Unless you're over 85 and you're in your own home, then you are allowed to use speakerphone in your own home. I think we can reserve that right for folks, but
Yeah, but if you're 85, you should be running for president, right? I mean,
right.
that's
Clearly.
You got other things you should be doing. People can take your calls. If you're 85, over 85 in the US, it is now your moment to run for the highest position in the land. No, the look, if you're over 85, you can do whatever the hell you want to do.
Right. I'm going to start smoking and drinking excessively when I'm 85. I'm just going to, I mean, right? Why
I
not?
mean, yeah, there's a okay. There's a reason why there's a lot of medical care for people in nursing homes after 85. They don't care. They just go do whatever they want to do. They take their
And
medicine
they've
or
earned
not.
the
They
right.
they date who they want to date. I mean, they can do whatever they want to do at 85. Okay. Now back to what
Back
our
to,
topic was.
right. We are talking about tech, right?
We've covered speakerphones, nursing homes, and politics. We've checked all the pre-podcast boxes. All right, so let's do this. We're gonna talk about kind of three things. There's some exciting things that came out with Apple in the Sequoia release and the iOS iPad 18 release. I don't know that there's much to talk about for the Apple Watch and Apple TV because we want to focus on the things that you as agents will benefit from with these upgrades. And as always, if you are an Android user and you are listening and powering through this podcast just because we're amazing and you want to hang out with us,
Mm.
we get it. We get that you had this stuff 5 years ago, but it's new to us and we're excited about it now.
We can
So,
admit that. We
yeah,
can admit that we're so excited about things that Android users have had for years.
we are totally thrilled. Have you ever heard the phrase Sherlocking as it applies to Apple?
No.
Okay, so Sherlocking is a thing that kind of the geeks in Apple verse know, and I don't remember. It was a product, and I want to say it was Watson, maybe, or Sherlock, one of the two. And there was this company had this great product, and I don't remember all the details about the product, but Apple basically came out with that exact product integrated in their system and launched it as this new cool thing. And I believe that the original product was called Sherlock, and Apple was like, we'll just call ours Watson. Who will notice? And so Sherlocking is the process of taking somebody else's great tech and introducing it into your own product as if it's brilliantly delivered as you. And they've done that in a couple of these things. And here's what I'm going to say: they wait till the technology gets good or better, and then they introduce it as part of their tech suite. And as much as I like third party tools, you can do most everything you need to do within the Apple operating system just fine. There's a couple things that may be best in class outside of it, but they tend to get integrated. So there are some Sherlocking things that have happened here, and I'm here for it. I'm glad I don't have to pay third party prices for it as part of the system. So with that, we're gonna jump in. You wanna start us off?
Sure. Well, there's just so many. We, again, a lot of these things are, like you said, available in third party apps, but to have them integrated into the Apple family seems to be a little bit easier and makes a lot of sense. So I think, as agents, we have a duty to protect our clients' data and our data. But, one of the first things we need to do is make sure our phones are secure, as are all our apps. So let's talk about maybe the password app that there was a password feature that was available in the iOS, but they've now just moved it to its standalone app.
Yeah, so the Passwords app, and by the way, it works on Microsoft too. So if you are a iPhone user, but a PC user, which you're leaving a lot of cool tools on the table, but I get it. A lot of people are. The Password app is now an encrypted, secure password app. So for me, I've been using one password for probably 12 or 13 years because it's highly encrypted. And it allows you to create a singular login, whether it's your Apple login or your face or touch device.
Biometrics.
Yes, the biometrics. Thank you. The big words. I have to go
Big
Google that
words.
later. Um, um, and now you can have access to all of your passwords and log in with just your Apple password or your biometrics at some point. And I think that's pretty cool. It also helps when you get a new system and you're like, "Ah, I got to create another password, or I got to go look for my passwords. I haven't logged into MLS in 6 months because the market's slow. It's just going to be automatically populated for you. So, I mean, you know, there's agents out there who only sell one house every 6 months and they forget their password, and that's tough, tough on them, tough on
Well,
our
this
clients too.
this makes it easier for them, and it also lets folks know when you've got a compromised password that might
Mm.
have been exposed somewhere in a data leak, or if it's been reused. Uh, Again, we've talked about. I use LastPass. I use Data Vault. I have. I use the Google one. So I mean, I must have 4 of them, but I think this is nice, and it's free,
Yeah, and some of you are using password over and over again, which is
right?
literally the most commonly used password out there. Your clients deserve better. Look, when we look at wire fraud and things like that, it is generally either the client or the agent. If you're still using and sporting that AOL password, if you're using, Yahoo or Juno or any of those things, those are not encrypted. Those are highly susceptible to being hacked. Emails should be either paid Google or paid Office 365 to have that encryption, but it doesn't mean that your client is. And if your client sends you something that's going to expose you, that may expose your whole network. So having the passwords app or LastPass, one password, these type of things will alert you when there's issues with it. Like I have Bank of America is constantly getting hacked, and I'm constantly getting alerts through my password app telling me that it's there, so I can go change passwords and do whatever. So I think it's a cool feature.
Yeah, an expectation at a minimum, and I'm glad you mentioned the wire fraud aspect of it. I mean, nobody wants to be a defendant in in some type of claim where your client has suggested that you didn't practice, the necessary encryption steps, and you're standing there, explaining how your Comcast, Yahoo, Gmail, Hotmail account is what you're using for business. I just don't get it.
Yeah.
Just don't get it. So, yeah, password security, all of those things. Check it out. It is in iOS 18. So, what do you got next for us?
Let's talk about video conferencing tools. So I know that this isn't normally what people go to when they're doing conferences, and I would just talk a little bit about this. In my classes and in your classes, we do talk about connecting with people, right? You're building trust with consumers and all the rest. And a big mistake that I see with a lot of agents is that they'll get something important, like the buyer needs to delay the closing, and you're telling your sellers, you're texting them, hey, sorry to let you know the buyers are delaying. Or you get a home inspection, hey, I'm going to email you the home inspection, look over it, let me know what you think. um, from when we talk about RE&E or ABR, SRS, any of these classes that we teach, we have to be able to build confidence in our clients, and email doesn't do that, and text message doesn't do that. Written word is interpreted differently by people who receive it. It is much better to jump on either FaceTime if the other user, then by the way, FaceTime now works on non-Apple devices as well, um, FaceTime or Zoom, to do that quick meet and greet. If you can't do it in person, if you can't drive over to their house or meet at the office to go over the home inspection addendum, let them know, hey, I've got the home inspection reports come back, or an addendum to extend, or whatever changes there are. Good news or bad news, take the couple minutes to meet with them by video. Most of your clients are used to video conferencing coming out of post-COVID work environments. I think video is very important. If you can't meet with them in person, it needs to be video. Nothing serious should be done. All your check-ins should be done face to face from video. And so with the video conferencing tool, what they've added is the ability to screen share. So let's say you have a document on your iPhone or on your computer screen, you can now share it and mark it up in real time in front of the person. So if you're, I tend to try to do that, not necessarily from FaceTime, but I could if it was a quick message or I needed to explain something to the clients. And you can have multiple people. So you could have both partners, the buyers or sellers on the call with you, and you can mark it up on your phone or desktop, which I think is pretty cool. And you can use whatever you want now for background. So again, obviously, Apple's making a little bit of a run for Zoom to try to make it easier. There's some cool features that I will say. This is from the last update. There's one thing I don't like. If you're on Zoom on a MacBook and you like give somebody a thumbs up or you make certain expressions, little emojis come up from your
Balloons,
balloons and whatever. And
hands.
I was on a Zoom meeting a couple months ago, and someone was talking about the loss of a loved one. They were kind of sharing what they'd gone through with losing a loved one, and I had my hands on the side of my face, holding my head up and listening to her, and whatever Apple interpreted that as got both the thumbs up and balloons, like I was celebrating, which was
Oh,
completely inappropriate at the moment.
oh,
So
that's bad.
yeah, so it's not a perfect technology. You do have to watch now your hand movement, but a lot of technology we're seeing, video technology is coming out with that. So what are you using video conferencing for?
Well, yeah, I use it to help my mother with her iPad. We did a little practice session the last time I was there, and I did the FaceTime, and then I did the invitation to share the screen. And because, and let's just face it, it might not be a mother, it might be one of your kids helping you, or really, like you said, a client where you've got to walk them through something. I firmly believe that we need to work smarter, and sometimes, like you said, that means you pick up the phone and you have to make a face-to-face call that involves video so people can see what's going on. And I do use it to help others with their devices. And sometimes it could be you're helping somebody sign an electronic document, or you could be helping an agent fill out an MLS form or something, really anything. So I think it's that much closer to, like you said, you don't have to open up a Zoom link. You can really just jump in with this feature.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. Non-work related, my grandson is on the other side of the country. They're on a Marine Corps base in California, and we're here in Virginia. And my wife and I both will read books to him. We'll pre-record ourselves reading books and sending it over to him, and then we FaceTime throughout the week. And he's, not even two, so he just wants to see faces, and he'll grab the phone and run around and stuff. But I love FaceTime for that, so that we can get on with the family and connect, and we do it a lot. So it's just bringing us together, that using the digital stuff to, keep us close, even though my kids are scattered now all over the U.S. and grandkids all over the place.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah,
But and I'm going back to the point about clients. There's so many times that something could have been done better with a face to face, and we can't always get face to face, but we can do it through video. And sometimes clients are, you know, let's just start with the fact that they can be frustrated. This is a real important event that they're going through.
yeah,
And we do this dozens of times a year, and they do it maybe 3 or 4 times in a lifetime. So if we can neutralize some of that anxiety by picking up the phone and just having a conversation, I think it's a great way to diffuse a situation that can sometimes go bad. So it's a great reminder for me, anyways, because I am so quick with the text.
yeah.
Let's just start with the video.
Well, you think you send over the home inspection, and that's usually the most stressful part for a lot of your home sellers.
Yeah, it's like
And
telling somebody their baby's ugly.
yeah, I mean, sometimes the baby's ugly. It's just be real. Um, So I have emojis on my face whether I mean to or not, and sometimes it's just that kid's hideous. But we 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 tend to send over the thing. Hey, well, let me call you later. I'm going to send it over now. And by then, the homeowners look through this list. They look at the report instead of maybe just a summation of what needs to be repaired, and they get freaked out about it. They get angry. They get offended, and they get insecure about it. Whereas if I'm able to get on video and go, okay, I'm going to pull this up. It's not that bad. These are pretty
Right,
typical things that everybody buy or lack for. My demeanor, my communication with them through voice control, and they can see my face and see I'm comfortable with this or not,
right.
will bring down temperature, as opposed to letting them just get pissed off about it because you sent it over and got them
Well,
all
that's what they're paying us for. That's what they're paying us for.
100%. 100%.
All right.
All
What
right.
else do we have?
iMessage. Let's talk about iMessage.
Oh, right. Speaking of iMessage, I mean, this is how, I don't know, what percentage of your communication during the day is through messaging?
Too bleeping much.
Right.
I swear to God, I hate text message, but I would say it's nonstop from 6 a.m. until 11 o'clock at night between
Yeah.
family and clients and agents in our firm. Yeah, 100%.
All right.
It's
So you just talked about 6 a.m. to midnight. Now, there are some people, and it's clearly not you and I, that do much better with shutting down or setting boundaries, and we're all for that. But for those of us, and at least this is how I've started to use some of the new features with iMessage, I have recognized that I have a burning desire to send a message or maybe respond to something, but at the time is just not appropriate. I am now scheduling messages.
yeah,
Now, again, maybe not the most technical new feature, but for us at Apple, Apple users, it is. So I can literally go into my message box, tap the plus button to the left, right, and I can schedule it to send at 8 o'clock in the morning or 8:30 instead of at 10:30 at night. And this can be used for a variety of things. Now, not only communications that should be done during business hours, but how about as you're doing your action plans for buyers or sellers or really anyone, or at any point in the transaction, I could be reminding myself or reminding my clients that don't forget, we've got the home inspection coming up on Saturday. Here's a list of things you need to do to prepare for it. And, or I could just simply send them to a link, but I could set that up the minute I know the home inspection's scheduled, so they get a text reminder, and I could be doing something else when that text reminder goes out.
I love that you found very practical and wholesome uses for this.
Yeah.
mine are,
What
mine
are you
are more
doing?
nefarious.
Planning dinner?
And admittedly, there was two things that came out, and because you and I watched the Apple like cheerleading session 6 months before the tools actually come out, and like I was just like, oh my god, they've got send later, like a function we've had since Netscape email back in
Right,
2000 and 1993 rather. Um, but here's my thing on send later and why I love it. We have to train our clients about appropriate boundaries, and our brains work in such a way as to get things off the plate. And I'm infamous for seeing text messages from one of my agents or staff members or one of my clients and going, I don't want to deal with this right now, and I don't want to seem overly responsive, like that they have me on a dog on a leash kind of thing. But also, if I don't answer right now, then because I don't have time to have a back and forth on this, right? And so, but if I
right,
don't answer right now, I'm going to forget about it because it's going to get buried through 30 other text messages. I'm if I could, if I was king for a second day, the next thing with technology would be that iMessage and text message should not be have a place in business, just because it leads to so much confusion, and trying to keep especially if you have several people in the text thread there in different platforms, it can be challenging. But it's the world we're in. So my send later function is if I'm sitting here 11 o'clock at night, I might be working, but I don't, I'm too old fashioned, so maybe four whiskeys or bourbons in. I don't want to start responding to people about their whatever. And I don't want them to think that they have me from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m.
right,
And so I'll type up the response and hit send later, so that it continues the conversation, gets it off my brain so I can go to sleep. Because if you have these things called open loops, and so if we go to bed and we have unresolved issues, or don't forget to respond to Frank and Judy. I don't know who Frank and Judy are. To their text message tomorrow morning when you get up, then you don't sleep well because you've got all these open loops in your brain. So I like the send later feature for those two reasons. I want to acknowledge and respond to you, but I cannot have a back and forth right now. I'm doing something, and so I'll signal it for later or send it later. Or again, I want to make sure I respond to that so I can go to sleep tonight, but I don't want them to think that I'm working 11 o'clock at night on their stuff. And I know some agents are taking this and listening to this going, I am there for my clients 24/7.
right.
Okay, good. You're going to burn out quick. You're going to wind up hating and resenting your clients. Plus, you're not doing your best work 11 o'clock at night. You're just not.
Yeah,
You're
let's just agree that's not. I mean, we all have our better times, but you don't need to be available 24/7. As I've been told, there's no real estate. We're not saving lives. Let's just say that.
not.
However, we it is important, and we do want to be sure to follow up, or at least give people the indication that we're going to respond during business hours, or whatever criteria you've set. Let's just start with that. Hey,
Yeah.
listen, explain to me what the this RCS support is and with Androids, because I think a lot of our listeners have we've all experienced the Android to Apple disasters of text messages, especially if you're in a group. Some messages show up later, some don't show up at all. Video quality is awful. Photo quality can be disastrous. What have they done to fix that?
Yeah. So there is this ongoing discussion about the psychological impact of turning, if you're an iPhone user, non iPhone users' messages are green and then iPhone users are blue. And people kept pushing back and saying Apple was doing that just to make Android users feel less important or valued, and they're changing the color of their text messages. It wasn't. It was because there's certain features that are only available if you're an iPhone to iPhone user, and those are RCS features. And so again, photos and videos were downgraded because of the way that Android phones handle text messages. It's not going through an iCloud system or an encrypted system. It's got to be, there were certain protocols that could be there. And then especially if you were having group messages and one user decides to be an Android user, they ruin it for everybody. Like I have a group of people who literally, they have two different text groups, one with the Android users included and one without, so that they can play games and share ideas and do all this stuff. And like our family was a complete Apple family for a while. And one of my daughters, which is now the, we call the green sheep of the family because she went with Android,
There's always one.
she went with Android because, you know, the boyfriend convinced her that it was a better phone. He's an,
The audacity.
yeah, yeah. I'm like, okay, this is the beginning, the end of our relationship. Anyway, so she went green, and so there were some things that wouldn't work. There was, you know, they wouldn't get the tap back as well. You would share an emoji or a GIF, and they wouldn't get it. It was really, RCS normalizes this now. It has a better exchange protocol, so there really is little to no difference between iPhone and Android users. You can now send Apple Pay money to an Android user if they'll accept it that way, and they set up an account and everything. Not, I don't think that's probably the best practice to inconvenience the other user, but yeah, RCS normalizes these protocols so that we are all now able to use group messages. And yes, you're still green. Um, I don't know why they kept that. Um, but yes, you're still green on our phones to let us know you're on a different series of
If
phones.
we could only do this with politics,
Yeah.
right?
If only
All right,
green and blue could get together.
right. All right. So, and then we've got some formatting things for those of us that have a strong desire to use bold, underlining, and all sorts of stuff, that is now available as well, right?
Yeah. I mean, for those of you who like sending novels in your text messages and feel like you need to strike out certain things, I don't understand you, because that's what email's for. But yeah, you can bold, underline, and italicize, and strike out words just like any other text messaging. And I, you know, as much as I make fun of text message abuse, it's on our laptops now, and so we're basically using like another version of Slack. And I feel like Mac has been doing this big push for productivity and workforce applications, especially because a lot of creative people and marketing people are Apple only systems. My team, my marketing team and my administrative team, I only let use Apple products at work because there is so much continuity in resources that can be used when you're a team, that they're trying to replace Slack. I think this is the next step in replacing tools like Slack, where you can do these things better on message if all the work team is on the same platform. So
And I do have to just mention that we have had the ability to edit texts now for a while. So if you spell something wrong, you do not need to retype your entire email in another text. Just go in and hit edit and change the word. I particularly, and I'm sure this part will get edited out, but I think as real estate agents, we all have run into the experience where we're using voice to text or we're talking to Siri to text, and I especially love the abbreviation of PNS. So, which and I'm referring to purchase and sale agreement, and somehow Siri always abbreviates PNS to something just horrible. And I often don't realize it until I hit send, and there it is, a Siri chosen alternative for purchase and sale. And I have many times had to go in there and change that word. But anyways, yeah, you don't have to retype your text message, just to edit.
okay,
Uh,
but I want to know if PNS ever gets interpreted to a eggplant. It's like they replace the
No, not
emoji.
an emoji. It's just a word. It just comes right out with the word.
Well, so I, you know, I tend to use adult language with people. And so sometimes it's a test to see if they call me on it. They come back and go, I don't appreciate that language, which no one's ever said. I can say, oh my gosh, I meant to say fire truck in
Right.
our such damn voice to text. Um,
Mm.
okay. So yeah. The other thing that it's done is that they've changed the tap back. So if you're not familiar, when you hold down a message to reply to it, and we're going to talk about this in a second, but you used to have like just a preset. You had a heart and a smiley face and something, and now
Right.
you can use any emoji in uh the library of emojis, so to speak. And well, when we get to iPhone and iPad, we'll talk about Genmoji. But look, I gotta address something, and I'm gonna defend for the first time ever my generation, because typically I identify as immature. That's my generation.
Mhm.
um And there was a conversation online. I've actually seen it twice now about the thumbs up emoji is
Oh, passive aggressive?
yeah, it's passive aggressive, it's cynical, it's rude. I'm like, no, it's not. It's literally stop making everything. Guys, stop being offended at every blankety blank beepity beep thing that I'm saving our editors from having to beat me out. I honestly, there's real things we should take offense to. There are people who are bad. There are people who
Do
we
bad
should
things,
do bad things, and we should be offended by their behavior and the words that they say.
but not the thumbs up. I mean,
Oh God,
it's being for our listeners, the thumbs up is being perceived by some as, "Yup, got it, okay." And
sure,
it's
okay,
not.
yeah.
It can mean good, it can mean great, it ca or you know what? How about this? How about you just stop using your emojis and then we just move on, you know? I This is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Passive aggressive text now, that's what we have.
Yeah,
Our
I
emoji.
you have to try really hard. I mean, well, look, this goes back to what I was saying about text messages and the evils of text message.
Right.
People default to the negative version of whatever it is, right? They assume they're being scolded in an email that may be corrective, or that are being talked down to in an email that isn't flourishing with accolades and love. But yeah, it's not. I'm going to keep using the thumbs up to say, okay, I got you. Not okay, I got you. I think it's like the digital version of okay boomer, but for millennials. All right, millennial. That's how they're interpreting it. And at some point, you've got real issues. If you don't know what issues you should be offended by, call us. We will help you.
Yeah, I'll give you problems if you want, if you're
Yeah.
looking for some.
Yeah, this isn't it. Okay. All right. And so that's tapbacks and emojis. And maps. Let's talk about maps for a second.
Yeah, maps. So, I know you've been talking about the topographic maps. And I know you do hike and wander in the woods. If I'm wandering in the woods, I'm lost. I'm not hiking. I do not do anything in the woods. I just don't get it. But anyways, here's the thing. I opened some maps and I did not see this feature. So tell me about this.
All right, so I just this past weekend actually, I was in Appalachia. If you're Appalachia or actually, there's two. I can't remember which one's which. If you're from the area, you say it a certain way, and then everybody else in the world says it something different. But the Appalachia Trail's up in the Shenandoah area of Virginia this past weekend going for a hike. And historically, I've used all trails. So if you are a hiker or camper, you're familiar with all trails. And one of the best parts of all trails, although it's I don't know, it's like $50 a year or something. I don't remember how much it is. It's money. Um, you can download the trails so that if you don't have signal, you still know where you are from the trailhead to throughout the trail. And it
Mhm.
gives you pre-formatted things. It tells you elevations and all the things that you need in a typical topographical map. Now, what they've done in Apple Notes and how this is applicable to real estate agents is national parks are now downloadable on your phone. So again, if you're hiking somewhere with no signal, you can find your way out. You can track where you are, and it works out the satellite. It's pretty cool. But for topographical maps, it's an overlay in the maps now that if you're standing on a piece of property, working with a buyer, and you're walking around, you can zoom in real time, and you can see where the elevations you're at. You can see landmarks. You can hit satellite and topographic to know where the boundaries of the property are. Now, I want to do a quick shout out for this. This is not an Apple product, but if you do land sales, Land Glide, LandGlide, and again, we aren't sponsored by anybody, so these are just products that we use or love, is the best tool for this. But if you're just doing occasional land and people want to see, I think every real estate agent should understand topographical maps. They're not challenging, but elevations do matter, where the floodplain is, where waterways are, all those things matter. um Landglide is phenomenal with this, but Landglide actually has boundary lines from the county government. They have data about the soil and the information in the region. It's just a powerful tool that I think it's not usually adopted by agents because it is pricey. It's about $99 a year for subscription. The Apple Maps, the topographical map, I think there's a free version too, but I went with the $100 version here. With topographical maps from Apple, it's a quick glance in case somebody wants to know where boundary lines are or monuments on the property.
Yeah, I'm still
Uh,
not seeing it. What's my problem here?
are you are you on an iPhone?
Yes.
Um,
Yes,
but
I'm on an iPhone. I do not see it. I've got my overlay. Let's see, 3D, 2D. Well, you know what? This I know it's not an instructional class, but um, well, to your point, it would be great help if we're out, and I probably should give it to our clients to use so they can
Yeah.
interpret property boundaries. We don't want to be doing that for them, but
Yeah, and our first segment here is on Mac OS and the desktop OS. And the reason that I think we addressed it here on the Mac OS is that you can take screenshots of it on your computer. If your clients are buying land, or if they are woodsy people like I tend to be, they want to know what the lay of the land looks like, where their house could be placed or where not, and elevations do matter. And you can take a screenshot and send it to them from here. You cannot take a screenshot and market it, because that's not what that's for. And also, in addition to National Parks Download, you can also now group your library of safe places, guides, and hikes, and so and you can share them. So I've been using mymaps.google. If you've taken any of my classes, I really rely on this a lot, and I can share custom maps I made on Google Maps through mymaps.google, and I even post my website. Here, I can have them quickly to share with you. So if you Kimberly decided that all of a sudden you're like, hey, I want to go for a hike, and I have been in those trails, I can share some past hikes I've done, or some guidebooks for regions through there, which I think is a pretty cool
yeah,
addition.
I'm not going to decide to go on a hike, so just move past that. All right.
All right, so we didn't talk about this before the show. Do you use Apple Notes? Are you an Apple Note person?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I live and breathe by Apple Notes. I believe there's a book called Second Brain by Tiago Forte, and I think everybody's very familiar with Atomic Habits. Hopefully, at this point, everybody's listening to this podcast has probably read Atomic Habits by James Clear. I feel like the second book you should read right after that is Tiago Forte's Second Brain. We as knowledge workers have to remember a lot of stuff, but we shouldn't be remembering. Our brain isn't designed to remember all the crap we have to remember. No, Apple Notes let you keep notes. You can have client notes. I've built out templates, and in Apple Notes, when I get a new client, I've got everything I need about them there in one place. Everything that I need, shareable links for the single listing website, email responses for people who are making inquiries, communications log. I have mine completely built out. And anytime I take a class, anytime I'm going anywhere, I use Apple Notes for everything. And this is a migration after 12 years of using Evernote. I think Apple Notes has become best in class. So a couple of the things that they've added here are audio recordings in real time. So if,
Mhm.
let's say, you're sitting in Kimberly's class, as you should be, and you just hit the record button. Now, remember, not all of us allow recording in classes.
Right.
So
Provided that you have the permission of both parties.
some of us as instructors do not allow audio or video recording in class because of liability purposes or manipulation of likeness or intellectual properties, 100 other things. But if you're taking a class in which the recording or you're in a meeting, so let's say you're in a meeting with a client, or at your association leadership meeting or whatever, you can hit record and it'll take notes and do a real-time transcription if you can hear it. And the microphone is pretty strong in the iPad and the iPhones, but it's strongest actually in your MacBook. So you could have your MacBook open at the meeting and it'll record your messages. I'll go over a couple of my favorite highlights and then let you jump in here. Again, this is one of those stupid things where we're all like, oh my God, this is amazing. And it was really now you can just do math on your notes. So if you type out an equation, it'll do math for you. If you're on an iPad and you write down the mathematical equation on your iPad, it'll give you the solution for you. Which for me, I get math, I just not quick at it or as good at it as most. And so this was a big help. Highlights and colors, again, we're so easily entertained. We can now highlight things and have highlighters in different colors. And then we'll cover this in the iPhone section, but iPhone now allows real-time recording of a phone call, and it dumps it into a note in Apple with a transcription of your phone call and the audio recording of the phone call if you elect to record a phone call. So those are the new features there. So what are you using it for, Kim?
Well, it I tend to use I use Top Producer, and I know that program can be ancient, but they have come out with a new platform for it. But having said that, that's where I typically use all my real estate related activities. But there's just some time where you're on the call or you're with a client and you just need to record something quick. And you know, although we are talking about Apple Notes, I think it's really important that we can discipline ourselves to use one platform or one format so that when you need the information, you know where to go back and get it. So I just will open up Apple Notes, whether it's on my iPad or my phone, or on this case, my desktop, and just train myself to put my notes somewhere, because typically if I can't find what I wrote down later on, I just do a search on my device and it pulls it up. Whereas in the past, I would spend hours trying to figure out, did I write it down on a piece of paper? Did I put it on a post-it note? Did I put it somewhere? It was just really difficult. So I do use it for real estate related, class related stuff. I also think it's a great place to record Christmas, and holiday gifts. I love certain things, and I tend to give certain things as gifts, maybe repeatedly. But if you can't remember what you did from one year to the next, I have a holiday list, and it goes back maybe 15 years. Personal information, people's sizes, or, again, for gift giving. Um, I use this for medical records. So, you go to the doctors and they say, you want any medications or you have had any surgeries. We all get tired of retyping that stuff. You can just copy and paste it there. Um, Training notes, things that you want to say at the beginning of every session, but don't want to transfer it from one slide deck to the next. And then I especially love it for, um, to not to-do lists really, but if you're going to go on a trip, and I put in a checklist and who's bringing what. So everybody gets a column and everybody gets to check off their own lists, and it's interactive. So you can share it in a message and
Right.
then have somebody just click on it. And now they've got access to your notes. And you could really do this. You could use it for your team activities and real estate. There's just so much, like I think you said, it's 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 as good, if not better, than some of all the other note programs out there that we've been paying for.
Yeah, 100%. And I've gone through them all. Like during the past 3 or 4 years, I do a lot of productivity classes, even some outside of the industry, and I've tried all the note taking apps, and I feel like Apple Notes, Sherlock, took the best of all the features. The only feature that Apple Notes doesn't have that I use frequently is Markdown language. So when I'm doing formatting, especially if you're using a lot of AI, it tends to create things that needs to be in Markdown language for formatting purposes.
Yeah.
There's a plugin for that maybe we'll cover in a different class that kind of goes, or class podcast, that will kind of go off in a whole different direction, but it does everything. um again, the updated releases, you mentioned travel things, and I think that's a good segue into Apple Intelligence. We're going to actually talk about intelligence a little bit later, but I wanted to just say one of the demos that was done, because Apple Intelligence, which is Apple's version of AI, is not fully released yet. But one of the things that they did show was what you talked about, was in saying, hey Siri. Siri's gotten a whole new upgrade in how she works. She's a whole different system now. Apple Notes is part of what she searches and utilizes. And so if you go and ask Siri for, like, when is mom flying in, it will look through your Apple Mail, through your notes, through your reminders, through your whole phone system that you've given it access to, and come back with an intelligent response. So you're not having to dig through, where did we have an AR Nexus coming up, and I've got my travel plans all laid out, but I've got emails in a folder on one account for travel. I have my other account where they tend to email me from my primary account there. I've got Notion has my flight information, whatever it is, and I have to go to 4 different places. I used to have to go to 4 different places to find it, and now Apple Notes will consolidate that through Siri when the AI version is fully released over the next couple months. So um, a lot of this is groundwork for that Apple Intelligence, including Apple Notes. I think the next thing is real simple: tiled windows. There was always a Moon was a third party app that I used. It organizes the windows on the screen. So, for example, I have a 37-inch monitor here at the studio, and I'm working on a project. I was just recently doing curriculum development, and I've got 16 windows open. I can now just drag the window up, and it'll resize it to either be full screen or a quadrant of the screen, and organize all those windows in the blocks. Something I think Microsoft Windows has probably had for 20 years. Uh, so And then the next one is iPhone mirroring. Now we've talked about this. What are your thoughts on iPhone mirroring? Having your iPhone on your Mac desktop?
Uh, I don't know. Here's my problem. I like anything new because it's cool. Um, I can get at most of my iPhone related tasks on my desktop anyway, so I'm not quite sure I see a huge need for it. However, I do think it's great for training purposes. So, if I'm trying to show somebody the benefits of the mobile app versus the desktop, et cetera, I think it's great from a training standpoint. I don't know. What are you loving about the iPhone mirroring?
Yeah, so iPhone mirroring is an app that now is on your MacBook, and it connects, if you give it permission to, connects to your phone. And let's say that I'm working in front of the TV, but I left my phone in the studio. So I'm in the theater room and watching TV, and there was something on the phone that I needed. I can now pull up my phone remotely anywhere that it is and do work on it. As you said, most of what I need, and your alerts from your phone now show up on your desktop if your phone is not, in your hand or operating. On. Mostly that I see the benefit of this is for demos. Yesterday I was doing a one-on-one coaching with one of our agents, and I wanted to show her, for example, Central Lock security. If you're a Central Lock user, there's a really cool buddy system on there that if you don't hit your OK every 10 minutes, it alerts your. In this case, I ask them to put the broker and their partner in, so somebody can know where they are that they need help. I can't do that on the MacBook, but I could very quickly pull it up on the iPhone. One of the sneaky things that I see this being used for is that you can listen and record remotely. So let's say that Kimberly, we're in a meeting, and you ask me to leave the room so you can talk about me. If I accidentally leave my phone in the other room, I could go to my MacBook and open up my phone app and hit the record app, or just listen in real time. When you access your phone remotely from your MacBook, the phone does not light up or change or move. It still has a dead screen on it, or the screensaver wallpaper. So the person that looking at your phone has no idea what's going on. So you could, in theory, listen into something like using it as a remote microphone, which is creepy and something you should be concerned about if you're having a conversation you shouldn't be having, or a private one. Look around to see if somebody left their phone accidentally in the room.
Wow.
But the other features, there are a couple apps like Instagram, I think works better on the iPhone than it does in the desktop. Threads, if you're a Thread as opposed to Twitter or X user, I just can't call it X, it's Twitter. That works infinitely better on the phone than it does on the desktop. So there's a couple little apps. Not that I'm going to scroll Threads from my desktop, I think that's dumb, but there's some cool things, mainly for training and demo purposes.
Yep, I agree.
For brokers and instructors. And then the mail app. Are you using the mail app?
No, I don't use Apple Mail, but maybe I'll go back to using it. I just didn't love it, but what's new in it?
So, two big things that they are prioritizing. One is a group by sender, and then group segments or tabs, which again Gmail has had for ever and ever and ever. But now Apple Mail has promotions, newsletters, and primary mail in 3 different tabs if you want them, where you can consolidate them. And it also has uh, they're laying the groundwork for AI, for Apple Intelligence here, and
Mhm.
I'm using it. I have the beta, and if you're not sure what that means people who are super nerds will download Apple software before it's released to the general public, and then we get to test it and report if it's working or not. And there are 2 different types of beta. There's the public beta, which is far more secure, and there's the developer beta, which is really not secure, and I would not recommend putting it on any phone or desktop or anything you're using in production and for work. And so I use a public beta with artificial intelligence, and it's doing some great things in Apple Mail. I usually use Spark Mail. I have for years, which had AI built in it forever. Um, it now will give you a summary. So when you get a notification or you look at your email, it gives you a summary of what that email is about. So that email, it'll say like, hey, this email is about the conversation about the home inspection report. Instead of giving you just the first line that doesn't tell you anything, as a preview. It also prioritizes. It'll learn from your behavior to say these emails you are likely to find more important than the rest, and it'll segment them in different areas. And so, and also in typical AI fashion. It'll pre-type email responses or give you prompts and suggestions for emails you're currently in. So that's in the beta. It's not in the general version yet. It will be soon, and it is wicked good. I mean, it has
Okay.
really done a
So
good
you've
job of
got me
streamlining.
convinced. I may switch my personal email over to
Yeah.
Apple Mail. But I do like the idea of it. I mean, we are all over emailed. Let's just start with that.
But yeah, between text and email, it's ridiculous. And I'm an email inbox zero guy. So these little hacks and tools to make things streamlined and more effective for me are powerful. And it also works on the iPhone, which we're getting ready to go into. Um, I'm a big fan of the AI tools here and helping me reduce my email and text burden. So they've done a good job with that. All right, let's jump into iPhone. Um,
Fabulous.
Yes, yeah, and we've covered so many of the things that were in iPhone were in the desktop version. So we've already talked about like maps and a few other things. Do you want to spend just a second to talk about because I've been doing the kind of AI training around the country, and I understand there's concerns about AI, appropriately so, being on device and what it's learning from you and all this stuff. So, as a reminder, Apple's big thing is they're secure. So, in Android, yes, I know you love your Android phones, and that's fine. If you're listening this far into the podcast, you probably have already disconnected if you're an Android user, so we can talk crap about them for the rest of the episode. But no, but Apple, I mean, Google is open source. Anybody can write code. It's up to you to decide if it's safe or not, et cetera. Apple, if you get it from the Apple Store, it's gone through a certification process. Um, One of the big things that Apple did here that I think is important is they have separated, they're using some limited version of ChatGPT and it's on your phone. So for that reason, when we talk about just a couple highlights of Apple Intelligence, you need to know you have to have a phone. I think it's 15 or 13 Pro or new for some of these features to work. But all of the device it's air gapped. It's all on your phone. It doesn't go to the Apple servers. Apple doesn't get access to what you're creating in AI, what you're asking of AI, what AI is gathering about you on the phone. They're the only device putting that safety in place. This is a big, big, big selling point for iPhone. So I think it's important as we talk about the iPhone that they really doubled down on security and encryption in this version of it. It's gone under the radar because it's not sexy and fun to talk about.
Right.
Big, big job with it. So, um,
So, for all of those folks that are out there convinced that the Apple community is trying to steal all our data and listen to everything we're saying, we can pretty much summarize it in saying this stuff is happening on device and not being shared with any servers anywhere. So that's good. So now we can feel more comfortable about everything else on our phones, right?
yeah, well,
Some of it,
there's still, a lot of people don't read those terms of use. I mean, this is the
right?
TikTok issue, right? TikTok is gathering information about contacts and your behavior and all this other stuff on there because you gave it consent to. Apple can only do so much. If you choose to give consent to these things, there's nothing to do. But the AI part of it and your personal data is segmented from all of that. But what you give license to those apps, for example, TikTok, your contacts and who you respond to and how, and what you're putting on your keyboard, they can't control that. That's the election that you made. So, yeah. What do you think about the personalization? You can now put your apps wherever you want. They don't have to be in a grid.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's cool. It's still on the grid. It's still in a grid format, but I'd like a little bit more creativity, but it's a step in the right direction. I um I have let's see, I'm just looking at mine right now. I do like the feature that allows them all to kind of go dark at night, which I didn't think I would like because I think I was surprised, although I shouldn't have been, with how much I identify with the visual aspects of an icon on my phone and
Yeah.
not really reading it.
Yeah.
So when they all go dark, they kind of look similar, but I did not change them. There's a difference from changing them to the dark mode versus changing. You can change them all to like blue or all to orange, and that would make me unravel. So no, I did not do that.
So there's a couple options here. I love minimalist design. And so one of the big things under the new customization is you can remove the words underneath of them. And to your point,
Hmm.
you can just see the icon and know what the icon is. But I am big and I have too many apps because I test them all for teaching and see what I like and I don't like. So I removed the words, which gave me more screen space. It looked cleaner, a lot cleaner to me. But the next step that I did was what you talked about, is customizing them, where you can actually make all icons the same color. So I did a matte black finish with a blue design on it, and I got totally lost because, as you said, my eyes were prone to the icon, which we, since our
Mhm.
caveman era, we've been into icons and pictures, pictographs. And so I had to put the colors, the original designer colors, back on. I am a dark mode guy all the time. Everything is in dark mode all the time because it's easier on my eyes. And especially like when we're doing, like you can see right now on the screen, although we're not putting video out to everybody else, we look at each other when we're doing this for cues. When I pull up Google Docs, which is what we use for our show notes, it's this glaring white thing, and it makes me look even more pale white than I am. If I have a dark mode, the light in my studio is focused. Not that that's a problem for everybody, but it's one of the benefits of this. I also just don't like the glaring, burning white on backgrounds and websites and docs. So anyway, one of the pro tips I'll give you that is really not about the new things. You can customize them. I think cool, makes them look all, maybe your brand colors would look cool on your phone. Because you can now customize the home screen, and if you're using a 15 or 16 iPhone, you can have the always on screen. I went to Canva and created a home screen that actually has my name and my email address on the front of it. So if I get absent-minded, which I'm prone to do, matter of fact, I've been looking for my reading glasses for 3 days, and I leave my phone somewhere, especially at all the conferences we're going to, or a restaurant or something, people can look at it and know um, uh, at least how to email me or my name to Google. They can't call me. Well, I take that back. I did add my phone number because I'm using the Apple Watch that has its own independent cell phone service. So if they were to call me and to tell me my phone was lost, my watch would ring and I could talk to them from that. So that's just a pro tip. And the other pro tip I'll give you that is not a new release is use the emergency stuff on your phone. So if you're on an iPhone, paramedics, fire rescue police, if they find you or find your phone or need your medical history, they can double click the uh, power button and or hold the two buttons depending on your phone. It'll bring up your medical alert information, your medication, anything in an emergency services worker, your emergency contact, everything you need to have on there. So doing what we do, an accident can happen in a home or a car accident or something. Help out emergency services worker, fill out the medical information on your phone so that they can access it when they need to.
Yeah, I've actually had an opportunity to use that real life, not with me, but somebody else. And I think it's also important that if somebody is going to be placed on your emergency list, now some of us use Life 360 or any of these third party apps, which will notify somebody in the event of, God forbid, a car accident or something like that. But, specifically with the Apple Watch, if there's a fall, you get a notification, but you have to set up who gets notified. um, you've got to tell the people that will be recipients of this notification that they need to look for that. We had it happen recently, and one of the recipients thought it was just spam and just deleted it. So, if you're going to set up emergency folks on your phone to get notified, make sure they're people that will respond. Make sure that they're people that won't send it to junk or spam or think that that's what it is. So great opportunities to, like you said, personalize your phone, fill out the information they're asking for. Somebody falls, gets hurt, gets in a car accident. There's all sorts of the medical device now with the watches. I know we're on iPhone, but yep,
Yeah.
do it. I love you're going to have to show me your Canva created window sometime so I can see what it is. Because, like you said, somebody finds the phone, they don't know who to call because they don't know whose phone it is until somebody calls that phone. And maybe they hope that the person that found it answered it, but you could put it in lock mode, which does give an emergency type message on the screen. But why make it more difficult for people, right?
Yeah, and if you're an Apple user at all, you got to turn on Find My um, for your phone. So if you do leave it somewhere, you can log in to your iCloud account, and it'll tell you exactly where the phone is. or any of your Apple devices, your AirPods or any of them. I think it's a really good feature. All right, so tell me, what do you think about the ability to lock or hide applications in the phone?
Well, well, my first question, I guess, is what are you doing on your phone that you need to hide your apps? I mean, that's just my first question, and then, I don't know, you gotta reevaluate your relationships if you're hiding something from people, or are you giving your phone I mean, maybe if you're giving your phone to your kids, I see it in the restaurants, your kid's sitting there, you have a toddler or whatever, they wanna watch some videos and you hand your phone over, so maybe in that case, you don't want them accidentally texting clients or getting into your database, who knows? I don't know. Why would people use this? Un, are they you're got some nefarious intent? I don't know. What's happening here?
So I think we this was my first reaction. Like literally the day Apple announced this, I was like, I am not going to even have I don't want anything on my phone that's going to make my wife nervous. You know, you're married for 31 years, you want to make sure that you stay that way or you're in any relationship, right? Everybody's very touchy and skeptical about this and I couldn't think of a good use other than what you said, which is if you have a Tinder account or maybe some other adult content on your phone and you have kids that you occasionally hand the phone to so they can play games and things, that's probably the only reason I can think of hiding an app or locking an app for a non-nefarious reason. Now, I'm sure our listeners here, you can email Kimberly and tell her all the reasons that you have.
Yeah. Gee, thanks.
I don't care because I'm never going to lock or hide an app. But I just couldn't think of a good reason to do that. The hiding and the locking, you have to so if you hide it, no one can see it's there, so you have to know it's there and you can search for it and pull it up. The locking it is either again through facial recognition, biometrics depending on how old your phone is, or password. And so if someone got your password to log in, they can get to open up the app, so unless you hide it. So I'm not sure. I keep my phone in my hand other than when I'm passing it to my wife, and that's the only other person that's going to have my phone and have the code and access to get into. So I don't know what the practical business purposes it is. And we talked
Well,
about go ahead.
well, I can see that if like you said, if you've got some apps on there or you're you got some questionable behavior, you may find this more beneficial than others.
I use all my devices for training and teaching. So that for one and many, many other reasons, I don't have any questionable content or
Yeah,
searches
my
on it.
OnlyFans account, when that pops up and, I'm in the middle of a training, it just doesn't go over well.
It doesn't go over. I got to tell you, years ago, I was in a class and the gentleman went to pull up something on his computer and he walked in front of the podium after he opened up his browser to talk to us and he had a let's say he had a very specific taste in what he was looking for and what he was into, and it was all over the screen for an extended period of time. I've never seen or heard of that person again. I think he died that day. But it was a huge class room that this was packed into. And so, look, I also, I'm careful what I search. My brother and I share things about politics and stories. And like, I don't ever want to get in a car accident or be accused of something. Not that I would do anything, maybe accused of something. And they're like, the last thing Matthew searched for on his phone was ways to dispose of a body. Now, it's
Right. Yeah.
because I was listening to a murder podcast, but I don't want that on my phone. All right.
Nope.
Anyways, we got to move on.
All right.
Way
If
off.
you lock and hide your apps, you may have other issues.
Yeah, you need marital counseling or couples counseling.
Right. The
All
divorce
right.
attorney.
Or yes, or your partner needs a divorce attorney. Customizable, everything we talked about. The control center, just a real quick on this. If you pull down from the top right hand corner, now they've added all sorts of ways to add what apps for quick access you want to move things the way that you want them to within that control center. From a business standpoint, I think it's just customization is cool, but I'm not sure there's a lot of
Well, like
yeah.
I often use the timers because, when teaching or presenting or really just anything to make sure you
Mhm.
stay with your time frame, I'm always setting the timer. So to have that in the um in the control center, I think is great. And then anything else that you use regularly.
Yeah. I use now you can do more customization on the lock screen too. I did add two things there. One, was my Todoist, because that's my action item list of or app of choice. And the other one was Shazam, because I love music, and sometimes I hear a song or a variation of a song I love that other people were singing, and I just want to hit that button and get right to it. Those are my.
And by it being on your lock screen just means that you have access to it without having to pick up your phone and log in, right?
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, makes sense.
Um, Okay, so photo editing. This was a big release, both on the MacBook and the iPhone. Again, laying the groundwork for Apple Intelligence. Apple Intelligence is going to be infusing. I've got the beta. I'm using it and playing with it. It's a beautiful thing. My wife and I just came back from the Bahamas. Yes, we went to the Bahamas for a week, and then we came back for 3 days, and then we went to a resort in the woods to recoup.
Nobody feels bad for you.
Yeah, no, it was a rough week for us. It was just bad planning. We promised somebody we'd go on this trip with them, and we forgot that it was back to back. But nonetheless, at the beach, I was taking a bunch of pictures, beautiful sunset in the Bahamas on the beach as it was, and I went to look at one of the pictures, and someone that was sporting his, beer belly, should have been wearing shirt or something, was walking through a frame, and with the Apple Intelligence, I was able to just touch that person and go remove my photo, and it did a beautiful job of removing him
Is
from
it
my
is it
sunset photo.
really doing a beautiful job though? I mean, I use I don't know. I use a third-party app which I pay for, so I'll be happy to get rid of it, but I'm not thinking it's great. I think maybe it'll be better when it's fully done, or I mean, are you had a good experience with it though, right?
I did for the sunset photo because it was a beach. It was a solid beach front that was really being replaced there, so it doesn't have like the street stuff that you see, some of the smudges that sometimes you see in the pictures. To your point, I was when we were hiking, I was taking a picture of a waterfall, and such as it is for Virginia, like we don't have these big, beautiful Hawaiian waterfalls, but we had a nice waterfall. And there was actually a piece of somebody threw like a soda bottle or something in there, and I went to remove it, and it definitely left a smudge. It did not do a good job at that, but none of them are perfect, and
Right.
over time. But photo editing has gotten much better. There's a lot more features. I was using Lightroom for eons and eons, and now I don't think I need it. I think most of the things. There's a couple things in Lightroom that are still existing that are now in the photo editing app. So I'm pretty happy with those. If you're, taking, I don't feel like anybody, even I've got the 16 Pro, beautiful camera. It's still not as good as my DSLR cameras for taking home pictures, listing photos. I really, really don't think you should use your phone for listing photos, even as good as they're getting. But if you are taking some marketing photos of, the dog park or something, and you want to edit them in real time and post them, much, much better tools now for your
Yeah.
on go marketing.
All right. FaceTime.
Yeah, FaceTime. I mean, this goes back to what we talked about on the desktop. You can now tap and draw on screens, so you can make edits and not edits, but you can draw attention to things, and you can show it in real time while you're FaceTiming. I think we talked about that a lot during that. How about messages during or via satellite?
Yeah. So what was I heard something yesterday. I don't know what we were talking about, but this essentially is certainly goes back to, what we do every day, which is meet with strange people in strange places, often that we don't really know, or
Yeah.
obviously put ourselves at risk. And this isn't a safety class, but we can't help but mention the fact that there's sometimes where we don't have phone signal, and to be able to communicate via satellite in the event of an emergency is huge. And then, I know you like recreation in the woods. So talk to me about what this looks like for you.
I mean, think both for a business practice and just practical. The messages via satellite, other things won't work on your phone, right? So I
Yeah.
can't open up, I can't open up my central lock if I'm showing a remote property remotely. I need to open up my lockbox app before I leave the office so it can sync up for the day and get access to all the lockboxes and stuff in the land. So it's not going to do that kind of stuff. But if you have the SOS and you have the satellite activity there, you can send plain text messages. So some of the features we talked about that were released, the editing of messages, emojis, those type of things, that's not going to happen. But a message to say I'm either okay or I'm here, I'm not okay, are fine. And that went hand in hand with the emergency SOS live video. So again, some of you may be in more rural areas. Look, I'm not in a rural area for the most part. I'm 45 minutes from DC, but you get another 30 minutes from here. There are some large areas that don't have internet access here. This will still work on the iPhone now. I think this is a major, major, major benefit to us. So you can send plain text messages, or you can record a very brief, I think it's no more than 60 seconds, help video. So if I get stuck in the woods or attacked by a client, let's say, and left, or in your case, I know you don't like the woods, so you have an emergency at Starbucks, whatever. Um,
Dramatic event at a Starbucks that has no Wi-Fi.
yeah, you can now record a quick emergency text that will go out to whomever is on your emergency system. So I think these are great features when you're remote. Things do happen. Again, car accidents on a remote windy road, uh, walking land and getting hurt. I used to do a lot of land sales, and I would take great pleasure in going and walking the whole however many acres to give the client a report, and sometimes by myself, sometimes with them. So it's nice to have.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. What else do we have?
We have a calculator. We
Uh,
finally have a built-in calculator app for the iPhone. I couldn't be
hard to
less
believe and a
impressed.
little embarrassing to admit, but we've just come light years. We went from satellite communications to a calculator.
So there is a mortgage calculator function on there, but there's 1,000 other mortgage calculators out there. So I'll just say we found a calculator. Real simple connection to reminders and Apple app now. If you're using the Apple Calendar app and you're using Apple Reminders, you can have a setting that puts your reminders on your daily to-do list on your calendar app, which is cool. And then we already talked about the photo editing upgrades. So that's really it for the iPhone. I will say this for those who are listening, as much as I'm a big Apple fan, I went from the Apple iPhone 13 Pro. I'm not one who upgrades every single phone. I just get the best version of the phone when I get it. I skipped 14, I skipped 15, went to 16. I got to tell you, I didn't see a huge difference. Just
Yeah.
didn't see for what I'm doing a big difference. So if you're on 13 Pro, the only reason to upgrade to 15 or 16 is if you're going to be using the silicon chip, and the Apple Intelligence will work better on there. There's some mystery as to whether it'll work on anything less than a 15 or 16 for Apple Intelligence. They're not fully releasing that for another few months, so you have some time. And if you're looking at saving a couple bucks, I don't know, I think you're fine going to the 15 Pro and not getting 16.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. I typically skip a model anyways because as much as I love a good camera, it's not going to make me upgrade my phone. I mean, really, from 30 megapixels to 48, am I noticing the difference? No. So I do skip a generation, and I can't tell. I actually had to. I carried them both around for a while, my 14 Pro Max and my 16 Pro Max, just to make sure everything moved and before traded in my old one. And
Yeah.
I had to intentionally change the visual look of the home screen because I couldn't tell the difference.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a slight weight difference, there is a slight dimension difference, but you can't really tell the difference. But I will tell you, the biggest thing I did notice was because I think I have the Apple Intelligence beta as well, um, is is the use of Siri. Just
Yeah.
in the last couple of days, that experience seems to be better. So I'm pleased that I did it for that. But I too am looking forward to everything that Apple Intelligence brings to the device, just to make it that much smarter.
So my experience with okay, so I will say the 16, I have the 16 Pro. The camera, the extra button for the camera is nice. I can't say
Yeah.
that I it was worth, the $1,300 update to get the camera button, because I'm fine without it, and I still kind of go back to the default. But that's really the only thing I saw physically about it. And then um the um the Apple Intelligence. So let's talk about this for a second. You mentioned Siri. I think it's so different from what she was before the upgrade that it's almost like they should have called her something else.
Right.
It's infinitely different. So what's your experience been so far?
Well, I I guess I'm easy to please because the first thing I like is when you say the keywords and I'm not going to say it now, or maybe I will. I say, "Hey Siri, let's see if she does anything." Nope, she's in do not disturb mode. But the visual, the lights that go all the way around your
Mhm.
computer, it maybe it was just me. Maybe I just have an anger problem. But when I would say, "Hey Siri" before, and I would get the tiny little thing at the bottom of my
Yeah.
phone, I mean, I wasn't quite sure. And, and I am that person that screams at her because she wasn't listening. And I really found that in the last few days of old Siri, she was old and tired. It's almost like they unplugged her because it was just miserable. I would ask her to make phone calls. She wasn't listening. And then now I'm on this, new Siri, and the phone lights up. She asks better questions. She responds with more information. So I think it's a better experience because I was getting ready to throw her out the window.
Yeah, I basically stopped using it. I was using ChatGPT as my uh,
Yeah.
um, verbally communicating with my phone because I was getting better results. Siri is really up their game. She's doing a lot of stuff like we talked about earlier with the beta. Even I can ask her to look at my phone and tell me what are my travel plans, and she'll tell me what hotel I'm staying at and what airline I'm taking. She did get uh, the time of takeoff wrong from the email, but she got the right airport, which is a problem for me because I have 3 airports within a mile drive, and so depending on where I'm going, which one is better. Um, so I did like a lot of what I've seen. I think she's just going to keep getting better and better and better. But they haven't even fully released the AI engine on
Right.
there, and she's already better. And like you, I know it sounds like a trivial thing, but the rainbow glow around the edges of the bevel on the phone makes a huge difference. I feel like I have her attention, that she's
Yeah.
searching more, that it's not this encapsulated element there. So I'm very happy that they spent the time and money to put into making Siri useful again, because I do think that she had not had any growth spurts for a decade. So that was great. Also with Apple Intelligence, have you played with the Genome features?
No, no, I have not.
So the generative emoji, or what they're calling Gemoji, is the ability to create your own custom emojis, which do save in history. And let's say that you and I are going back and forth. I'm big in sending goofy emojis, oftentimes for no apparent reason whatsoever, um, just to get somebody to say hi, right? Instead of saying hi, I send a super emoji. Anyways, so I use Giphy as my default, and it's still limited, right? You have the same kind of thing. If I'm sending a happy birthday message and I go to the meme feature of the phone, it's pretty much the same 6 that I feel comfortable sending for birthday messages. Now you can just say, "Hey, Adam Siri, go ahead and create a emoji of a horse, being ridden by a knight, and some fictional character chasing them or something," and it'll create that for me and allow me to send it in time. And so it's a pretty cool little feature. It's still pretty limited. They haven't fully launched all of it, but that is more and more to come. I don't know, it's fun, it's cutesy, and I'm not limited to other stuff, nor do I have to spend time searching for just the right thing if I can create it.
I think the theme here has been we all have adopted third-party apps to do things that we wish the iOS did, or the operating system. And now, I mean, we're checking off boxes of things we can get rid of because it's going to be done through
Yeah.
the environment.
Yeah, I probably will save about $500 a year in subscriptions that now can be maybe more, actually, as I start thinking about All Trails and some things. And I'm not quite ready to give up All Trails because I've invested a lot in it. But those type of tools, I have to make a decision. Is it worth paying $60 a year or whatever it is for All Trails just so I can quickly review the trail and build that karma from other hikers and things? I don't know that it is. I think
Right.
just having the content so I can go on a hike or a bike ride is there. Um, all right, custom movies is another thing that is coming out. And there's a lot more, but I'm just going to cover these 2 last things. Custom movies will take your content on your phone and create movies out of pictures and videos you have to be ready to post immediately from your phone. So I'm using CapCut for a lot of this editing for social media or sending to friends. It'll now do that on the phone, and it'll create, just like all other AI, generate unique images at our commands. So I think those things are worth watching to make your text messaging and your emails way more lively in the future. And do all the AI stuff on your phone would be cool.
So you could essentially take some preliminary shots of a listing with your fabulous phone,
Hmm.
put them into a folder, and then have the I mean, what do we have? 30, 40,000 photos on our phones. I'm not letting Siri or Apple Intelligence make any videos because I can't, you know, never mind hiding apps. I need to be hiding photos. Let's start with that. But if I put all, if, again, your photographer hasn't arrived at the property yet, you want to do some type of pre-marketing, you can take a few good shots, you could put them into an album in your photos, and then use just that specific album to create a movie, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I mean, the photo app has already been creating like memories and a couple,
Hmm.
custom folder collection. I'm very organized with my photos, and I tend to go through them routinely and get rid of them. So I only have a few hundred on the phone at a time, and mainly it's things I want to keep about family or life or something. Um, uh, it I haven't played a lot with it. I've just seen the demos that they've had online. I think it looks pretty cool. It's again predominantly for you to create quick, like if you wanted to do a keeping it to real estate again, if you want to do a quick collage of videos with music overlay and you want to do a voiceover for pre-marketing stuff wherever if you're allowed to do that in your market, it would do that for you. And it'd be, I think, quickly, easily done on your phone again, instead of, like you said, third-party apps.
Cool.
All right, so let's wrap up with, we always end our session with our podcast with bonus apps. And so, Kimberly, what's your bonus app outside of all the other gadgets and stuff we talked about today?
Oh goodness. Well, I will first have to start with I got some new headshots, and typically that spurs buying new business cards. And I got to tell you, I'm not thinking I'm even going to buy any new business cards because I've been using something called Blink, BLINQ,
Mm-hmm.
and it allows me on my phone to simply open up a QR code, which has my brand on it, my photo, all my contact information. So somebody could essentially just take a screenshot of it. But the better idea is it brings them to my Blink profile, which then they can download on their phone and have my contact information. And Blink even allows you to memorialize the day you added the contact
Yeah.
and then how you met and give you some contact information like that. So I like it. And then I actually have two Blink profiles in the same app, and you just very easily slide from one to the other. One is my business profile with my business contact information, and the other is something a little bit more silly. It's personal. It's got a picture of my dog, my home address, and my home email. So Blink, BLINQ.
I love Blink. Once again, we're twinning. We had no idea that we were both using this. But one of the things I do is actually put the QR code on the widgets so that they can scan it. And you see, like, if you are working with an iPhone user, two iPhone users, and they have the newer version, I think it's 13 Pro or better, they
Yeah.
can their phones and it transfers information. It's way more kludgy than I think it should be. And not everybody has an iPhone that it works on. So you see people with older iPhones and young and newer iPhones like bumping their phones together. At one point, that's just
Violently.
really, yeah, it's just like you should not be touching your phones as much. But anyway, Blink is a much better app, and I did not know that you could easily create two profiles on it.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
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 Yeah, because that's one of the things I don't like when I share contacts. Is I do have my home address. Not that people can't figure out where you live, but I like that. Like my birthday stuff. Maybe I would give my birthday to you because I expect a present.
Right.
I would.
Exactly.
I don't know. I want to give it to everybody else. So that's a good idea. All right, mine is Set app, SETAPP, Set app. And Set app is a annual subscription. Again, we don't get sponsored by any of these things, but if you wanted to, like, I'll take a check.
Right.
Um, Set app is a annual subscription, and what it does is it gives you a lot of these apps, the third party apps that we use on our Mac devices, our iPhone devices. You have to pay a subscription fee for. What they do is give you one subscription fee, and it's a very very large library of apps and things. That $100 a year, I think, is what it currently is. Saved me $300 a year when I got it because a lot of the apps I was using and paying for over and over again. And it also let me go and have the freedom to test out apps that I would never have tested out because you had to pay for them, that I can now download and On my website, I actually have a list of my favorite MacBook apps, that third-party apps that I think agents should consider and why. And most of those are all inset apps, so that you don't have to pay a lot of fees. So it's really, really convenient. It works great on your computer. The downside is if you stop paying the subscription, you lose all the apps that were part of the subscription. I have no intention of leaving it. It's a good system for me.
Wow.
Yep.
Very good.
So that's it for us. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Enjoy your new Apple iOS and your Mac operating systems and Apple Intelligence, and I'm sure we'll be back with more.
Yes, we will. All right. Thank you so much, and see you all later. Hope you keep listening. The Meet the Moment podcast is a production of the Real Estate Business Institute, an affiliate of the National Association of Realtors. Special thanks to CEO Jenny Scheib and to Dan Shea, our editor and content producer. The views and ideas expressed in this podcast are not necessarily shared or endorsed by REBI. All recommendations made in this episode were merely provided as best practices. The practices of any realtor are subject to the Realtor Code of Ethics, the laws and licensing jurisdiction, broker policies, and competent legal advice. Visit www.rebinstitute.com for more information, resources, education, and upcoming events.